Hey guys, Varric here. So today's video is going to be on Tortoise, the fourth boss in the Throne of Thunder. Uh, this boss overall is pretty simple, not quite as chaotic as the council fight or as much adds as Hordon, but there are a few things you need to watch out for. But let's go ahead and get started. Uh, the first ability that Tortoise will do once the fight starts is called Call of Tortoise, where he will summon 3 World Turtles. Ideally, you want somebody to apply some type of slow to these turtles when they're coming out, either DK slow or Shaman or Warlock's Curse of Exhaustion, that type of thing. If you don't happen to have any of that, you can throw your slow trap down. But again, that's kind of a last resort, just because it's only about a 50% slow, and it will override any other slow, even if it is a higher percentage slow, like the DKs or the Warlock slow. Your traps, the way the mechanic works, will override that. So only put that down if you don't have any other type of slow. Secondly, you want to make sure somebody marks at least one of the turtles, preferably two out of the 3 turtles. So whoever's in charge of targeting the turtles will focus fire on one and burn that one turtle down. You at least want to get one turtle down very, very quickly, and then eventually get the other 2 down. The main reason why you want to get at least one turtle down as fast as possible is because of the little extra action button you'll notice when the fight starts called Kick Shell. Basically what happens is when you get one of the turtles down, they'll kind of go into their shell and you can no longer damage them. You want to assign at least one person to be in charge of kicking the shells. However, it's probably a good idea to have at least a backup in case something goes wrong. If like the main person is too far away, or there's something else going on, he can't get to it. But ideally, you want to have one person in charge of kicking the shell and somebody you can depend on. The main reason why you want to have at least one turtle down as fast as possible, because eventually Taurus will do an ability called Furious Stone Breath. Now he will cast this once his rage bar, will reach 100%. His rage bar is right underneath his nameplate. It's just like a little bar that fills up as time goes by. Once he reaches 100 Fury, he'll cast Furious Stone Breath. Odds are you're probably not going to be targeting Tortoise the entire time because some of the other mechanics going on. Usually your melee will be the ones that'll be on the boss the entire time. So once he starts getting kind of close, your melee needs to call out that it's getting close so you can kind of get in position. Now, as far as Furious Stone Breath goes, it's like a 5-second cast. And it does a lot of damage. In fact, if you don't kick the shell and interrupt his cast within the first couple of seconds, you're probably going to lose somebody, if not half the raid. So it's pretty imperative that you get used to the timing. Keep in mind when you do kick a shell that it's not instantaneous. It does take time to travel across. So the further away you are from Tortoise that you kick the shell, the longer it takes to get to him. You need to kind of factor that in there. So just kind of keep an eye on his bar, have somebody call it out, and then try to time it to where you're not getting more than a second or 2 at most of the Furious Stone cast. Also keep in mind every time you kick the shell at Tortoise, he will take an extra 25% damage for 20 seconds. As well as any other mob that's in the path of the shell. They will take an extra amount of damage, and they will also kind of be disoriented or stunned. So it's ideally you want to try to save that as much as you can for the Furious Stone Breath. You can kick it for some other things, but that's the main ability. The second mechanic in this fight is the Vampiric Cave Bats that will spawn every time he does a Quake Stomp. The Quake Stomp ability is he'll basically do this. He'll stomp the ground. I think it does like about 65% of your total health. It'll kind of knock you down and stun you for a second or 2. But it'll also do a bunch of an ability called a bunch of rock falls. You'll see like little circles on the ground, and stalactites from the ceiling will fall down. You definitely want to get out of the way of these while you're trying to dodge the turtles and whatnot. So at that point, things can get a little hectic, and the raid damage can get kind of high. But just keep in mind once he does a Quake Stomp that the bats are going to come down pretty soon after that. You want one of your tanks to pick up the bats and try to take it as close to the boss as you can. So the melee, especially the melee, can kind of cleave the adds along with the boss. Depending on what your responsibility is, maybe if you're on turtle duty, if you're supposed to get the turtles down, and you have at least one turtle down, you can turn your focus onto the bats and help get those guys down too. They're not a huge deal as long as your tank is pretty good about picking them up. And depending on how much melee you have or how well your DPS is on melee, they shouldn't really be a big issue. They don't have a ton of health, and they should go down pretty quickly. But that's pretty much it for the fight. Again, with the turtle shell, when you kick the shell, if the vampiric bats are up and you can time it right, you can actually kick the shell through the bats and it will stun them, which will help out the tank and the healers somewhat, but it's not a huge deal. Like I said, the bats are just kind of a second part to the whole fight. They're not a real big concern. As long as your tank can pick up the bats, as long as the bats ain't just off attacking anybody. Your main deal is this: you just want to dodge. There's also another one called Rockfall, where they just randomly spawn on the ground when you have to just get out of it. If you're inside the circle when the rockfall hits, it does a little like over 300,000 damage. So you definitely don't want to be in the circle when the rockfall hits the ground. However, it still will do damage to you even if you're within, I think it's 20 yards of it. However, it's only like 80 to 90k damage, so it's a lot less if you manage to get away from it. The biggest thing to worry about that you have to concentrate on is the Quake Stomp. After he does Quake Stomp, there'll be a bunch of rock falls. Just try to disengage and move out of those as fast as possible. You don't want to be right in the middle of them. You're going to take some outside AoE damage from them. There's not a lot you can do about that. Your healers are just going to have to try to heal through it. If you are in charge of kicking the shell, again, just keep in mind there is a slight delay when you kick it, that it's not instantaneous. There is travel time. So just try to time it right to where if you're closer, you can play a little bit closer to the vest and kick it without getting too much of the stone breath. But if you're further away, you want to try to kick it right before he casts Furious Stone Breath so you don't end up getting too many ticks of it. Furious Stone Breath is probably the biggest danger in this fight, so it's just something you need to keep in mind. But other than that, that's pretty much it. If you can, AoE the bats down if you get a chance with in front of Tortoise. Make sure you at least have one turtle down at all times. Try to disengage out of the rock falls if you can, since you can also get healed when you disengage. And that's pretty much it. Once you've got the mechanics of the bats and getting the turtles and kicking the turtle, the fight's pretty easy. But that's going to do it pretty much for this fight. Hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, concerns, complaints, just leave in the comments down below. If you did like the video, give it a like and subscribe. But that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you later.